speaking of which, Tim, did you see the new ad? Did you see it? Did you see the impactful ad
I
for gun
did.
control? I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be the one.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't rally the troops to their cause, their anti-gun grabber group that they like to pander to, they've definitely insulted the rest of America.
Yeah, they did. They outdid themselves, sir.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't think they could possibly show any more disdain for their fellow Americans than this one particular ad.
No, I don't think so. I think, in my opinion, they've gone beyond the pale, so to speak, if you will. But you know what? Enough of the setup. Let's get with Dr. Button Pusher first. Let's make sure if he's alive. How you doing, Doctor? You all right?
I got hairy legs.
Yes, he does. Okay, so we're in a good vibe to set happiness in before you guys have blood shoot out of your eyes from this clip. If you haven't seen it, let's get it.
Please, God, save her. Do something. Save her. Please save her. Please.
My thoughts and prayers are with you.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts.
Prayers.
Thoughts and prayers.
All right, Tim. So without getting us banned from YouTube, what are your thoughts?
Well, like I said, this shows the absolute hatred and disdain they have for fellow Americans. It's a lot of extreme wokeism and in my mind, their own biases with regards to race and things like that. It's just your typical woke nonsense. And it's just infuriating.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's the exact. I got livid on this one. Now, I mean, I thought they could have gone about a way to figure out how to ban pools for common sense safety a lot easier. I thought this was a little extreme for banning pools, but of course that's not what they're doing.
Right.
So,
well, they don't want to ban pools in suburbia with white families.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a WASP, watch out. There will be no bodies of water near you.
Christians.
The thing. Goodness gracious. It's in full transparency. I know Tim and I are both religious people. This is like personal for both of us because it kind of like just right at us as the targeted audience. So the thing that really bothers me is this entire thing is propagated on a lie. Like you said, like you nailed. Well, it's not the number one cause of murder or death in children in the United States. It's
gang violence. But we won't want to talk about that.
It's actually gang violence. It's actually what they're referring to is an increase in homicides in teenagers who are tied to gang violence, which are 17, 18, 19, and 20 years old. But we can't talk about that because they really don't have the same punch, because they can't actually access guns legally. So it kind of undermines their point even further. So let's make a big video about a pool. And the thing that bothers me so bad about it, man, is this is playing on some things that are, I mean, we're both parents, and this is a worst nightmare scenario for any parent. Any parent. You don't, when you think about pools and you think about kids, like the number one worst thing you could possibly imagine, ocean, pool, lake, this scenario. And it's playing on the fears of people, of which it's built upon a manipulation and a lie. And then the entire dark point is it undermines gun control completely. They're trying to say that thoughts and prayers are obviously not enough. Just do something because thoughts and prayers are worthless. Before you even get into the religious connotation, you're completely circumventing the point that a pool is an inanimate object, just like a gun is an inanimate object. The idea that you're not going to dive in and save somebody is the exact same thing as you're not going to either fund the police or carry a gun yourself to stop those things.
Yep.
And that was the biggest point for me, is they're trying to make this big, grandiose, dramatic point about thoughts and prayers. And, I got to mow my lawn. I really hope it works out. That's not really what you're conveying. What you're really conveying is you're doing nothing. It's just
it's the typical emotional nonsense they always pull, right?
Yeah,
Their entire argument is based on emotion. So you start off with very strong imagery of a child falling into a pool and drowning and laying there at the bottom of the pool, which they show. Then the mother drops to her knees in an attempt to mock Christianity. Instead of saving her daughter, she drops her knees and says, "Oh, please, Lord, save my child," knowing full well that Christian faith doesn't teach that. That you sit idly by and ask God for help.
Not at all.
Right? That's not what Christianity teaches. So it is an affront to Christianity. It's a direct assault on Christians, and it's a direct assault on, I mean, just the family just sitting there, right? They're mocking that family, even though the family's fictitious, but they're mocking actual families that have lost children in swimming pool accidents.
In the same way.
And so it is just infuriating to see this entire shtick being played out with, and this goes to the point that they don't care. There's only certain people's children they care about. It ain't yours if you're watching this and if you own a gun. They care maybe about their children, but I kind of doubt that too, because they'll just go out and wholesale support the slaughter of 800,000 plus children a year in the United States. But if the child survives the gauntlet of abortion, then now all of a sudden we care about them and we don't want them drowning in a pool. It's just so infuriating. It's such a lie.
It's about the children, because it's about the children. The thing, Tim, about this, and while I hate this part of the, how do I say that properly? This part of the liberal ethos of gun control, or any of their main points, is the ends justify the means consistently. You see this over and over and over again. Sure, we broke a few eggs, but we had to make this omelet. Sure, we offended those people, but we had to make the point, because after all, we are so pure. And we are so virtue signaling, and we know what's right, and they just don't. So we've got to shake them awake. It's just this.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's this element of superiority of we're obviously right. And so if we just mock thoughts and prayers, even though a majority of the country is religious in one form or the other, if we just mock the idea of a deity or a superior power in the universe, well, obviously they'll see our point. And it's based on this hubris that is only found on the left. I'm sorry, it is only found on the left.
Yeah. I mean, just watching that video, even if you support what they're saying, you have to look at that video and go, this is pretty hateful towards a whole lot of Americans.
This
just
is
outright
gross.
Insulting.
Right. This is pretty gross, right? Yeah. And it's the I'm the most, and this is probably the best way to sum up what I'm trying to describe. I'm the most inclusive and most loving person on the planet, unless you disagree with me, in which case eat crap and die.
Right.
And it's just like, wow, you guys are so loving. So loving. Let's play the video again. Goodness.
Yeah, they are. They're the party of love and peace and so kumbaya, holding hands, when they're not burning cities for years on end and right. Smashing stores, looting nationally, running crime up. Other than that, these are generally good people.
Exactly. But Tim, they were mad. They had a lot of frustration. You have to understand. They were cold. It was winter coming. They needed warmth. I mean, they had insurance, Tim. You should have thought this through before you said that statement, because obviously you didn't. It's so mind-boggling.
So what do we call it when they take a violent criminal and turn them loose on the streets hours after they're captured so they can go out and reoffend? It's like they don't ever want to talk about that. We have thoughts and prayers on one side. What's the other side? What do you call it when you're out there actively putting violent people back on the street due to your far left lunacy and your stupid politics?
Tuesday. We call that Tuesday in some cities. That's what we call that. Yeah, dude, it's just this was so far beyond the pale of, and it shows you more than their point that they were trying to show. And that's one of the things that the left does, man. When that mask slips, and we're talking about gun controllers, but it's also kind of tied to the left because they're kind of one of the same in some areas. But when that mask slips, man, it's ugly when they show you what's behind that mask. It is not pretty. But the last thing that I wanted to say on this, and before we move on, is the thing that they're not drawing into the conclusion here in their attempt to mock everything that the opposite side would hold dear, or at least a lot of Americans would. They're disproving their point completely, because if you look at carrying a gun, the impetus behind carrying a gun is not, I want to be awesome. The carrying of a gun is usually facilitated by some sort of need for protection and security, which is why you see gun buying at an all-time high for minorities across the board, which in this video is ironic. Then you've got carrying, you've got ownership of homes. The population is not buying what they're selling. There is a disparity between what they're selling and what reality is. And the reason that you carry guns is for your own protection, so you can be that answer when something needs to happen. The entire point is they're saying, oh, we just rely on thoughts and prayers and that's it. That's you're bringing to highlight the point of why we carry guns. It's so that you don't sit there and do nothing, but their entire point is you're not doing what I want, so you're doing nothing. And I think that's a very important thing to bring into the table.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they, block every attempt at security at schools and everything else.
100%.
The common sense stuff isn't so common nor sensical.
No.
They're idiots, and they create the mess that they're complaining about through the application of their own far left lunacy policies. If you take a look at crime and where it takes place, and you take a look at the violence in America, it's almost always in Democratic pockets where they have far left policies in place, gun bans and criminal release programs where you just basically go out, commit murder, and get released on your own recognizance 12 hours later.
Yeah.
And it's mostly gang violence. If you take gang violence out of the equation, we're the most peaceful first world nation in the world.
Yep. And it's ironic,
but they won't talk about it.
The new talking point is well, the southern states are so much more violent. Where are those coming from? Cities within the Republican states that are run by
Democrats.
Yep. Come on, guys. Come on. We're better than this. But